I'm super curious. How much is Linus taking home in comparison with the rest of the staff?
We have talked before.
Ellie, they give it the 6 months.
Across our various teams, it shouldn't be a big surprise that other than the inventory we stock, payroll is our largest expense by a significant margin at about 25%. Breaking this down from there was a little tricky.
15% profit is like very good margins, by the way. Like there are companies who clock like who scrape by with like 2 to 3% profit a year. So like taking like 15% home like into pocket is it's really good. It's really good. That's why he's anti-union. Like he could bump this up to 30% and still have 10.5% profit left. He'll be fine. He'll be chilling.
Significant margin at about 25%. Breaking this down from there was a little tricky. See, many members of our team are cross-functional. That's to say that one day they might be evaluating a material sample for a t-shirt, and then the next day they might be appearing on camera explaining.
Cross-functional is a very fancy way of saying underpaid, by the way. Don't get it confused. Cross-functional is a very fancy way of saying underpaid. It just means that they are wearing a lot of hats and they're doing multiple jobs for the pay of one. That's it. I was very cross-functional in my early career. Yeah, as was I. As was I. Yeah, overworked.
Explaining t-shirt materials to our Floatplane subscribers. But the way that our payroll budget is generally broken out is according to the areas where people make their primary contributions. With that in mind, the largest department is called Internal Shared Services. With multiple companies, we could have separate HR, accounting, events, infrastructure, logistics, and operations departments for each company, but that would be horribly inefficient. So instead, we share all of those departments. The biggest one is operations at a little over 11% of our payroll for 2025. That's so large because it happens to include multiple topics, and it also serves as a bit of a catch-all for things that happens at a little over 11% of our payroll for 2020. The biggest one is operations at a little over 11% of our payroll for 2025. That's so large because it happens to include multiple top executives, and it also serves as a bit of a catch-all for things like events, community management, and HR. The other half is made up of accounting, IT infrastructure, and logistics. These are the folks who get our expense reports paid on time, keep our storage servers working, and who keep our shared office spaces equipped with peripherals.
Wait, so even of that 25%, right? Even of that 25%, 50% of that 25% around is going to operations for like executives and such, primarily, as Linus said. The other half of that is being split between all the other employees for everything else that all three companies do. 11% of the payroll, 24% of that is Linus. No, he said, to be fair, he said it was like, 10 to 12%, I would assume, go to executives. Right, so if there's 100 employees, right? It will say that there are like 10 people with executive roles. That's 10 people getting 50% of the payroll. And then that's 90 people getting the other 50% of the payroll. Like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Look, I'm not saying that it has to be like directly split evenly or whatever, but that's kind of an insane ratio. But again, I don't know the inner workings of the company. Who knows?
All three of these departments are absolute heroes, and we thank you for your service. Next up is developers. No one else? Okay, fine. The point is we have a ton of developers now, handling everything from floatplane.com to lttstore.com to lttlabs.com to internal tools.
How are developers different than everybody else they just mentioned? Are they still also covered under that 25%?
And weird experiments. Hey, remember the time our dev team built a VPN product in a weekend and then we got cold feet around the legal and ethical concerns? These guys absolute heroes too. It is worth noting that this one is a little funky though, because Luke is in here and he is not a developer. He manages developers, but then he also manages the lab's testing team, and he appears on camera and is just, generally a Chad. So as you'd expect, he inflates the numbers here a little bit. The next several departments each land in the 10 to 15% range, starting with writing. These are probably the folks that you know.
That's a lot of 10%. I'm confused. There's only 25.5%. Unless he's breaking that down, but of that 25.5%. It's just 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. Let's he's doing that. Like of the 100% that makes it the 25%. That would make sense then.
We call them writers, but it's kind of YouTube industry lingo for a bit of writing, a bit of production planning, a bit of hosting, a bit of, sorry, I'm doing what today? Okay. And then next up is production, another department of unsung heroes. Though, with that said, I actually kind of love
unsung heroes. You're the boss. Just sing their praises. What do you mean unsung heroes?
Love it when they sing a little, whether that's our camera operators jumping in to ask the question that everyone's thinking, or our editors adding their customary 15 pieces of flair to our videos for you guys to pause and appreciate. Product design, which includes graphic design, fashion, and engineering, has become a major group for us over the last couple of years. These are the folks that bring the many products you enjoy on LTT Store.
Can you show a pie chart for this? I'm getting lost by all the
Store.com to life, obsessing over every detail from the sound of the ratchet to the hand feel of a design printed on one of our high quality garments. In some cases, this team also gets tasked with taking our product ideas behind the barn. That was a fun video, by the way, and is totally worth a watch to get some insight into how these folks work. Finally, there's operations staff and management specifically for LTTstore.com. These are more unsung heroes working on everything from customer care to compliance to supply chain management and marketing. These are the folks who helped us weather some major storms this year by rolling out a US-based warehouse in a matter of months after a certain person enacted a bunch of import taxes on Americans. And then they also had to manage the fallout around moving fast and breaking stuff. Our two smallest groups in 2025, at under 10% each, are the labs team, who handles product testing and is quietly working in the background to scale up our processes while also making growing contributions directly to the content, as well as our partnerships team, which includes Disneyland, who handles brand partnerships and brought you mega bangers this year, ranging from AMD Ultimate Tech Upgrade to that incredible tour that we did of Kioxia's fab in Japan, along with our amazing procurement team who I think can buy anything. I mean, they barely even raised an eyebrow when I asked for a fire truck. So that's it, that's who gets paid. But how are they paid? Well, while we don't always get things perfect, what I can confidently say is that LMG delivers on our goal of median salaries that are well above what's typical for our region. In 2024, including only employees who were active for the full year, LTTstore.com. In 2024, including only employees who were actually active for the full year, we landed at around 73,500 Canadian dollars. And that was higher than even the average income in our area at that time. Then in 2025, we increased.
I will say, there are a few qualifiers there, because the average income in your area also includes people who only work for 1 to 2 months, I would assume. So like, he put qualifiers on what his number is, but no qualifiers on what the numbers that he shows for other people are, right? For him, it's just only people who are active for an entire year, whereas it's not including people who are like either contractors or interns or seasonal employees or people who only worked 11 out of the 12 months of a year, right? Not including those people, which I would assume inflates numbers somewhat. But those people are included in like the average wage of the area of Vancouver that they're in. You know?
Increased our median salary to just over 80,000.
Also,
Canadian dollars.
I don't know. How much is that in real people dollars, chat? How much of that is in real people dollars?
This 9% change was made in spite of actually flat revenues across those years to hire and retain key talent,
Like 70?
as well as to better support our valued team members through the current cost of living crisis. It was also partly driven by the internal minimum wage guidelines that we have for entry-level positions. It is separate from the legal limit and instead is tethered to the published Greater Vancouver living wage, which is designed as the hourly rate that a full-time worker must earn in order to cover essential expenses.
It's like 53K in the USD. It's not a lot. 58K. Yeah, it's not great. Right, considering that's the median, there are people who are making less than that at the company, by and large, right? And despite all of that, people are still leaving the company because their pay is stagnant, right? So even if it is technically like above what would be considered a living wage, technically speaking, if you're working at this company for 10 years, your wage isn't changing. So you could be making a really good wage in 2016, but making a middling wage in 2020, and then a not great wage in 2026. You know what I mean? Well, his boss is on his third house, yeah. But keep this in mind, chat. Keep those numbers in mind. 73K, 58K. Because I want to see how much. Oh, he gets the average salary as well. I want to see how much he makes. Like Linus makes.
Avoid chronic financial stress, and to participate in their community. Furthermore, it is worth noting that unlike many gig-based productions, we hire the vast majority of our local team members as full-time employees, which here in BC affords them protections and benefits that are not the norm for contractors, and for that matter, not the norm for anyone in many other parts of the world. We also offer a benefits package that includes retirement savings matching, continued education, health and dental, and budgets for extras like counseling and physiotherapy. Also, now that more members of our team are having kids, we recently added partial coverage for orthodontics. I know that there will be many LMG team members, both current and former, watching this video, and I'm sure this talk of company compensation is going to raise some questions for some of you. But what I hope is that this degree of transparency will answer at least some of them. And if you still have concerns or you're looking for ways to improve your pay, it might be time for a conversation about either performance or a role change. We post all open positions.
That's crazy. Or just unionize, bro. This is so, it feels so gross. What's the word? Not pedantic. Patronizing. That one. It feels patronizing. So Linus is absolutely undercutting them. Oh, 100%. You don't make 15% profit margins without undercutting people, right? Like you just don't.
Positions on
To be fair, like profits are the undercuts holistically. Like that's kind of what surplus labor value is. But
MediaGroup.com, and you can
also
always
wait, hold
speak
on.
with your.
What do you mean role change? You just said they all wear multiple hats. He said earlier in this video that all the employees do a billion things each. They all are unsung heroes who wear multiple hats.
A role change. We post all open positions for a conversation about either performance or a role change. We post all open positions on LinusMediaGroup.com, and you can always speak with your manager or with HR about how to boost your total compensation. We're working on a system, by the way, for quantifying some of the previously intangible qualities that have led to people with similar job titles making different amounts, and we're hoping to roll that out shortly.
Whoa, hold on. You can't just skirt past that. You can't just skirt past, hey, we're trying to fix this thing that is like almost certainly illegal. What do you mean having the same job titles but getting paid different amounts? Hold on.
We speak with your manager or with HR about how to boost your total compensation. We're working on a system, by the way, for quantifying some of the previously intangible qualities that have led to people with similar job titles making different amounts. And
well, what do you use now, Linus? What do you use now? I'm curious. How do you How did you determine that before? If there weren't like a set of guidelines or standards? Was it just vibes? Was it, yeah, dartboard. They put people's names on a dartboard. It was just like, who gets paid the top of the salary range and who gets paid the lowest amount? Sorry, Janet. You're getting paid the low end of the of the salary range. My bad.
We're hoping to roll that out shortly. Moving on to
Also,
average.
Like, honestly, like, we don't need to know this part. You know what I mean? Like, this is internal policies for your employee. This. We don't need to know this part. Just putting that out there. He doesn't need to tell us this part. Like, guys, we're trying to fix this issue about people at our company who are getting paid different amounts for the same job. It's a really bad issue that we have, but we're trying to fix it. Like, all right, cool. It feels, okay, it does feel slightly preemptive, but who knows?
Naturally, these end up higher than median salaries, since you're going to have outliers like top executives that skew the data. But immediately, moving on to average salaries. Naturally, these end up higher than median salaries, since you're going to have outliers like top executives that skew the data. But they don't skew things as much as you might think. In the last year, we have focused on improving compensation for our individual contributors and have made only small adjustments to leadership.
Sure.
This is reflective of a recent period of flat revenue growth and hopefully is a trend that we can work to improve for 2026. Average salaries across our companies then were 114,000 Canadian and 115,000 Canadian for 2024.
That's quite a big discrepancy. That is quite a big discrepancy compared to what the median salary is. But I am curious. I wish he broke it down by positionality. You know, I'm not saying go through everybody's individual salary, but like by department, right? For team members, how much do they make? And for the executive team, how much do they make? You know what I mean? Without standard deviation, these numbers are useless. Yeah.
2025, respectively. Another key metric that people look at to determine fairness is the relative compensation of executives and individual contributors.
Indeed.
And I'm going to do my best to give you guys some insight here, but calculating this ratio is a little bit complicated for us.
How?
See, Yvonne and I have each paid ourselves $121,000 a year for years. Why that number? I have no idea. But as the also shareholders of the company, it's obviously not our entire take home. So then we could remove ourselves as
no, just do total compensation. This isn't complicated. just do total compensation. How much money are you taking in from the company? Like, why is he positioning this as a complicated thing? It's not complicated. You have a salary, right? You have other revenue sources, potentially bonuses. I don't know what your compensation structure looks like. You know how much money you've gotten paid in the last year. You take total compensation versus the total compensation that you would provide to a full-time employee. It's not just their salary. They get benefits packages. They potentially get bonuses, right? You have accountants. You have an accounting department. They know this information. Why is he acting like this is crazy? Total compensation is definitely something that you as a CEO or as a employer, as a boss, are privy to. You need to know total compensation because when you're bringing in money and you're paying people out, you're not just paying out their salaries. You know this, Linus.
Weird outliers, but then we'd be sharing an average of like 4 people, which is basically just outing their salaries. So
what?
We could remove ourselves as weird outliers, but then we'd be sharing an average of like 4 people, which is basically just outing their salaries. So
okay, so so there's 4 people in the executive suite. That's like, you know, who are skewing the numbers, which, nobody. So okay, so all we know from this, because he's not giving us any information, we know a few things. We know one thing: there are 6 people who are considered executives at the company who get paid way more than what he calls individual contributors. That's one thing we know. Number 2, we know that Linus and his wife separately are the highest paid people at the company by far. So you have the individual employees, executives, Linus and his wife up here. So much so that he has to take them out of the equation to even have a reasonable estimate of what, compensation looks like at different tiers of his company. Thirdly, he still can't pay an employee that's been with him for 10 years a little bit more money. He's paying himself $1 and then the rest is stock options like other tax dodgers. No, he pays himself $121,000, right? But if he has 3 houses, right, he's getting paid way more than $121,000 CAD. How much is that in freedom dollars, chat? $129? Oh, that was $121. Millions probably. Oh no, for sure. He's definitely getting paid millions. $87K? Yeah, no shot. No shot is he buying 3 houses anywhere with $87K. I make $87K. Me. And I'm not buying 3 houses. Ohio, you're not buying 3 houses in Ohio with $87K, bro. Because how much a house in Vancouver costs? It has to be at least 100, like 300 something. It depends on the house. Single family, 2,000 square feet, 300K. Condos, 200K. Townhouse, 250. That's my thoughts. In American. In USD. What are you talking about? Somebody asked me to guess the housing prices in Canada, and I was guessing. Not close. Or it is more unaffordable than LA. We did learn that from Jake. Townhouse, 500K. We have 400K houses. Vancouver housing market, too low. Okay, how much is this in freedom dollars? Gosh darn it. Gosh darn fake money, bro. How much is this in freedom dollars? This is still a lot of freaking money. So probably around 500K. Okay. Yeah, it is 500K. It is 500K at the lowest in Langley, but in Vancouver it's $1.25 million. How does he have 3 houses, bro? Okay, that's crazy. Y'all chose to be Canadian at those prices. I'm saying, Christian. I'm saying, bro, if I'm paying 1.5 million, I'm at least going to somewhere cool, not to freaking Canada. Take me to New York, bro. Take me to New York. Where's it at? Hello? They're trying to hold me back. They're trying to hold me back. They don't want me to see New York. That's the average price of all housing, including townhouses and condos, which I can guarantee is not what Linus owns. Yeah. It's too much money. It's kind of the case. Right, but I think Linus is
You'd be sharing an average of like 4 people, which is basically just outing their salaries. So what about?
I think that's so silly. Also, why doesn't he just do it? Like, I think honestly, if you're at a company and you are part of the executive team and you're making so much more money than everybody else, I think you should out your salaries. Right? Maybe not to us. I don't know. Maybe not to us. But maybe to the employees. I think people should be very open about how, again, if this were like individual, like, individual contributors or like employees, as you said, then yeah, maybe. I'm not saying like, oh, Johnny, this is your salary or whatever. Like, you don't have to tell us who the executives are. You feel me? Just say all of the executives. We didn't know how many executives there were, who they were until Linus just told us. By the way, he put their faces on the screen, so he didn't need to do that. The 3 houses include the one he bought for concerts, seemingly using his employees for labor. And yes,
opted to do instead is to just semi-out one person, Taryn. Our CEO to median pay ratio is somewhere.
So you just think about one person instead of all the executives. Why? Also, not him and his wife. I am curious how much he gets paid, but sure.
The range of 5 to 1 and 10 to 1. Okay, is to just semi-out one person, Taryn. Our CEO to median pay ratio is somewhere in the range of 5 to 1 and 10 to 1. Okay, it's a pretty big range.
That is an insanely big range.
For the purposes of this fireside chat, I don't think that really matters. The point is that
it matters a little bit. A tad bit.
The boys are liars. The boys are liars. Say your goodbye.
Like, yeah, the CEO makes somewhere between 5 to 10 times what the average employee makes. I do think it does slightly matter if it's like, if it's 10 times. Why did he make this video? I don't even freaking know. Also, he's not comparing himself to other corporations. He'd be like, see guys, we're not that bad.
For the purposes of this fireside chat, I don't think that really matters. The point is that it's reasonable. Even by 1970s standards, before executive compensation went cray-cray at the expense of the worker, that kind of a ratio was commonplace. Now,
also we know that Linus and his wife, separately, because they both are employees of the company, make more than the CEO does. Right? I'm sorry. We don't know that. That's kind of what the implication was. Right? Which is why they call themselves outliers when compared to the other executives. And it is also just salary. You're correct, chatter. This is also just salary. So just on a salary basis, right? On a salary basis, the CEO is making 5 to 10 times. I would surmise it's probably closer to that 10 times range. What the average employee makes at Linus Media Group. But we also knew that when Linus and his wife were running LMG, right? And now they are outliers to even what the other executives are making. So Linus is probably making upwards of like 20 to 25, maybe even to 50 to 100 times what the average employee is making. We don't know. Right? We don't know. But, it is interesting that Linus chose to put the CEO salary down and not his own and his wife's, because they both get paid a salary, because they're separate entities and separate workers at the company. So
it is worth noting that Taryn's been on the job for a few years now, and there are plans to tune his comp package in the near future if we execute well on our plans for 2026, but I can only tell you guys what is, not what maybe will be. Which brings us to the 5'1" elephant in the room. This guy. At this point, I'm addressing our team as much as the audience, so I'll be direct. In 2025, our tax installments were just shy of 8% of our total expenses, and the last 15 or so percent is our net profit. Is it a lot of money? Yes. But from an objective standpoint, it's not outside of the reasonable.
Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Come on, dog. You can't say at least we're not Apple. He's literally comparing himself to supervillains. He's not even comparing himself to other, YouTube entities or YouTube companies. He's comparing himself to NVIDIA, Adobe, Cisco, and Apple. And he's like, listen, are we loaded? Yeah. Yeah, are we making a lot of money? Oh, yeah. Am I getting paid a lot? Oh, you know it. But I'm not getting paid as much as like Elon Musk pays himself, right? Or Tim Apple pays himself. So like, it's not that bad if you think about it. When his employees are being fired and are quitting because they're getting paid the same amount of money for 3 years, right? Jake got paid the same amount of money for the amount of time that the other guy was CEO for. No meaningful change in his compensation. And he's flexing. Linus is flexing on him.
Range if you consider the whole picture. And if anything, my intention is to find new revenue opportunities or efficiencies that will push that into the 20% range. Why? Well, because that bucket isn't just fun money for Linus and his family. For starters, it includes setting aside any capital that Yvonne and I, with consultation from our executive team, might put aside to invest in new projects, such as the upcoming series, buying and renovating a tech house, as well as another yet to be disclosed big content-related acquisition for 2026.
Who's living in this tech house? Question. For the Linus tech tippers out there, no one? That seems like a waste. He's going to sell it after? Some renters eventually, if I recall correctly. But after he gets paid, all the extra profits go into business expansion, not to raising the employee's capital from what we know. It's a house for fun so you can put tech stuff into it. It's empty until the content is done being filmed. Okay, I do get where Jake is coming from and why that would be frustrating. If like Linus is like, listen guys, we're gonna buy this house that nobody's gonna live in for content, and then we're gonna sell it to somebody, none of y'all, because y'all can't afford it anyway. And you're just like, dog, I'm a perpetual renter. I'm Gen Z. We're never buying a house. So he's flipping houses on company funds. To be fair, like there are flipping companies that do that. So it's not like new. It's not like a new thing. But I can get why it's frustrating. Vancouver, it's supposed to be illegal. The more you know. In fact, at the time I quit a job because the owner said they should delay our paychecks because she needed to make a retail order. It was a spa. That's crazy.
Includes maintaining our operating cash flow as well.
In Vancouver, you can bump that back a generation. Most millennials would never own a home out there. I mean, Canadian charges are so funny. That's not unique to Canada. Like, millennials in this country are also not buying a house either. I'm just saying that because Jake was Gen Z.
As our rainy day fund, which
not illegal, but that's supposed to tax empty houses higher. So I think it is a loophole. If you're taking company funds to own coffers, he's 100% tax dodging. I would again, I don't know. I would assume that when he sells the house, the funds for that would go into the company and it would be taxed at that point. And then hopefully that money would be used to, give employees the raises. But what do I know?
Okay, memes about my financial irresponsibility aside, Yvonne and I have been extremely careful with our resources over the last decade plus. We've weathered multiple major storms that have had serious business impacts with zero layoffs, and that includes both COVID as well as the 2023 controversy.
This is so funny because 2023 controversy was, I think, him faking testing for tech components. He got caught out from Gabriel's Nexus. But 2, you have people leaving your company because you're not paying them any more money. So like, yeah, you can be like, oh, we have no layoffs, but because you're forcing them to leave because their careers are stagnant.
Now, it is worth noting here that layoff has a very specific definition. It means a reduction in force due to like a restructuring or like a shortage of available work, which might happen someday, but it hasn't yet. And if anyone tells you that they were laid off here, they either don't know or fully understand what happened, or they are not telling you the whole story. The last thing
are careful.
Yeah,
I'm gonna believe you over an employee, like sure, like pedantically, they weren't laid off. You fired them because you wanted to cut their overhead because you wanted to use that money for something else. That still could also be a layoff. Just because you are in just because you're not in dire financial straits does not mean you didn't lay off employees to then take that money and use it elsewhere. You know what I mean? Actually, it's not a layoff because we were actually never in financial straits. We actually were doing just fine. And you got fired because you actually were a bad employee. It's like giving up in a relationship and saying you didn't break up. They did because you stopped giving shit. Exactly.
Careful financial planning has enabled us to do is never bring in outside investors, which can be okay, but it can also carry the risk of inshitifying our jobs and our content. Finally, yes, this pool does include paying dividends to our shareholders. That's me and Yvonne. And this is where the lines get really blurry. For one thing, if I were to issue a dividend.
Does it? Does it get blurry? I mean, this was very obviously the case. So that dividend is not covered in so they're paying themselves a salary on, even on this front, like this is, like they're paying themselves a salary on top of getting these dividends as well. So like they're not like tax dodging the way that like other billionaires will, or billionaires will be like, I pay myself $1 so I can dodge all my taxes from income tax. Because income tax is usually taxed at a higher rate. But like they get to have this veil of like transparency by showing their CEO salary and telling how much that him and his wife get paid in a salary, but also be like, this is a little bit blurry for how much these dividends are. What else? Let's see.
Dividend. To myself, for example. I can't just give myself money from that bucket. I'm gonna have to pay personal income tax on top of the corporate income tax that I already paid. So that slice of the pie, it's not actually as big as it looks if I wanted to use it personally. And then the other thing blurring the line is that any shareholder dividend that I wanted to issue.
How much did you get paid, Linus? This is a lot of words for a number. How much did you pay yourself? He's just explaining why it's okay for him to have paid himself. Like, nobody's like, Linus, you can't pay yourself money. People just want to know how much it is. And you can't tell your video the truth about how LTT spends money and then be like, listen, I'm not gonna tell you how much I get paid or how much like my total compensation is or how much the entire executive team gets paid. But I told you the truth though.
To myself, it wouldn't just be a payout for the ongoing investment into the company. It would also include whatever the company decides that I'm worth for being our primary on-screen talent.
You're the company! You were the CEO up until 3 years ago. What do you mean? That's you! Your name is on it, Linus! Your name is on the company! Why is he acting like he's the L? He's literally the L in LTT. Why is he acting like, and then just be transparent. Be like, yeah, this is my company. Yeah, I own it. Yeah, I get paid a sweet chunk of change for running this company. I make a total of $5 million a year. I'd be like, man, that is a lot of money. That's a crazy amount of money. But now I'm like, is Linus dodging his taxes? He seems to be very guarded about how much money he makes. Now I'm suspicious because he won't say a number. He has all these qualifiers. All these qualifiers about how much his money makes it specifically. Like, I don't know. It's weird. Also, not even getting to the fact that him and his wife both are separate employees. They both get a separate salary. They both get separate compensation packages, right? And so they're, I don't want to say double dipping, but like whatever Linus says he gets paid, it's more than that because his wife is also an employee and is also, a part of the company.
creative director for our physical goods business, as well as a top-level executive. How do you quantify what each of these is worth? How do you quantify what they're all worth together? Am I worth millions of dollars a year? Could anyone be worth that much? I don't know. I could compare against other recognizable hosts where, yeah, okay, it doesn't look that.
He's like, well, if I'm like Jimmy Kimmel for one of my jobs, and I'm like Elon Musk for another one of my jobs, and I'm like, I don't know, the head of R&D at Apple for another one of my jobs, right? That's 12 million or 22 million plus 100 million plus 6 million. So like all together, I'm worth a few $100 million. I'm worth a few $100 million.
That ridiculous? But then, realistically, I'm not as good as them. But then on the other hand, Yvonne and I provided our own seed capital for this company without even so much as a bank loan. They didn't have to go through that. So it's a tough question to answer. On the one hand, it sounds like a lot, because it is.
Then
but on
say
the other
number.
hand,
Say the number. Say the number. Let me make the decision. Right? Because if I see that, I'm like, oh, okay, that's a lot of money for Linus. I don't know if he deserves it. That's my opinion. Somebody else can be like, okay, I get why. You know, he took the risk on for the business, and he does do a lot of jobs, and he is the main guy. And just say the number, Linus. Say the number. How much is your total compensation?
this is it. This is the pot at the end of the rainbow in a capitalist system that we didn't choose, but do have to operate in. Yvonne and I took a big risk, both providing capital to grow this thing and working our butts off alongside the world-class team that we built. We beat the odds, and we're also making concrete efforts not to pull the ladder up behind us. If you did the same thing,
To Linus and Yvonne, guys, everyone knows you made sacrifices to get where you are, and to be able to support a team of this size, and there's a lot of things you guys did right. Just don't forget that many of those same people made massive sacrifices and braved many a storms on your behalf as well. Ultimately, it came to a head around feeling valued, and I'm far from the only person who felt that way. After 3+ years of my total comp remaining effectively the same, while affordability was getting worse and worse, especially in Vancouver, one of the least affordable areas to live in the world, you kind of start thinking while you're working on your boss's third house, if you're ever gonna be able to buy a house. And for the record, I don't own this one, I'm just renting. So
That's kind of the point though, right? Linus is so worried about getting what he's due, what he's owed. What about what you owe to your employees? People who've given you a decade of their life, or decades, right? Years of their life, right? Jake left with almost nothing to show for it. You were millions of dollars up, right? 100 millionaire, I would say, assets included. And this person who's been with you for 10 years left with nothing. How is that fair to him? Unless you think that your employees are not integral to why your businesses succeed. But you yourself, Linus, call them unsung heroes, right? You love to say how unsung the heroes, the workers at your companies are, how nobody sings their praises, right? All of them are unsung heroes. But you won't sing their praises. You can't even increase their compensation in 3 years. But your CEO has been there for 3 years, and you're already floating the idea of tweaking, whatever that means, his compensation.
I'd want you to have the same reward. It's a hard truth to swallow, but a wage will always have a ceiling. The ceiling of how much someone's willing to pay which is dictated, or at least strongly influenced, by a market that is cutthroat by its very nature. By contrast, the ceiling for entrepreneurs.
You can't say this while also saying like, yeah, dog, we just made 15%. 15%.
I was about to go get the Henny.
Of our overall money, profits that, you know, some of which comes to me, into my pockets, and we want to get that up to 20%, but also, sorry, your wage has a ceiling. You can't, you only get paid as much as somebody values you, and I don't value y'all that much. Saying the market made him do it? Yes. He's saying, but capitalism is making me not pay my employees more money and pocket the most of it.
Entrepreneurship, that's however high you can build it. It is worth noting, ceiling for entrepreneurs by a market that is cutthroat by its very nature. By contrast, the ceiling for entrepreneurship, that's however high you can build it.
That's so gross. Like, no, the ceiling for your employees is however much you want to pay them, Linus. You are not dictated by some nebulous market. You can pay them more money if you want to pay them more money. Like, sorry, I can't pay you anymore. The market says I can't. The market says I can't. And he's too worried about making a competitive market value rate for his employees instead of actually paying them what he thinks they're worth. He doesn't look at a job and he's like, I think you're worth this amount of money. He's like, how much does the market say you're worth? Ooh, that's kind of high. Well, if we go a few $1,000s under that, you're worth probably around that, right? Yeah, I can't pay you more. The capitalism police will kill me. Dive your hand into the 15% profit and scoot that over to your employees. It's very simple. It's extraordinarily simple. That's the slimiest line I've ever heard. What is this? I'm just following the rules. Yeah. Company I work for just got acquired. I was one of the first 10 employees. Worked there for 6 years. All I got was a new job at the company that bought us. I hate capitalism. You should have been an entrepreneur. There's no ceiling on your growth if you're an entrepreneur. But hey, if you're an employee, you're limited by the market, and that's it. And not the greed. 'Cause what is the market? What is he talking about? The market is not like this force of nature. It's the collective greed of society. That's all the market is. The market is. All the market is the collective greed of capital owners dictating how low they can lowball the employees and weaponizing the threats of death and violence from the working class to get them to subscribe to this nebulous, greedy system. That's it. You can pay your employees more if you so chose to. Linus chose not to. That's it.
It is worth noting, by the way, though, that while entrepreneurship is a great way to elevate your earnings, I am not saying anything about what it'll do to the quality of your life or your peace of mind. There are pros and cons to.
Oh no, after 10 minutes of Linus flexing about how much money he's made, it makes him feel sad. Oh, poor him. Poor him and his 3 houses. Poor him and his 3 houses when his employees for a decade, who's been working there since they were 15 years old, right, had to leave because you wouldn't pay him more money after 3 years. Oh, boohoo, poor you, Midas, poor you. Honestly, I come on, I was already on Jake's side, but after this, I completely understand why he was mad enough to make the videos he did. And honestly, I think he was still too nice in this video. Like, I completely understand where he got to the point of making this video. Because imagine being an employee who went to your bosses, who you thought actually treated you like a family, and was like, hey, this is rough for me working here. I like working here, but I need some changes. Like, my compensation hasn't changed for 3 years. Can we fix that? Your boss is like, no. And then you're just like, all right, I guess I have to leave. And you leave and your boss is like, yo, what's good, bitches? We got money, we got women, we got hoes, we got yachts, we got 3 houses here. We just went on a cruise. We bought a fire truck. I'm getting paid. And you're just like, you're like, what? 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 I thought you couldn't afford to give me a raise, but you're getting paid millions of dollars, 15% of profits. He's like, oh, did I say we getting paid? I mean, I'm getting paid off of the backs of your labors. Thanks, bro. Like, I'm sorry. And this is why it pisses me off that Linus did it like this. Because this should not be the first time your employees see the budget. This should not be the first time your employees see the budget. They should not be fighting this out through YouTube videos. Linus is like, well, I'm talking to LMG members and former LMG members, the same as I'm talking to the audience, right? I'm sure you have a lot of questions. This is for an internal memo, bro. You sit yourself down, right? And with your company and your employees, you say, yo, this is how much money we got coming in. This is how it compares to last year, which was the business. Yes, he showed the budget of the business. Chad, that's how we got here. Linus Media Group 2024-2025 expenses. How much he shows how much profit he made, how much money's going to labor costs and capital expenditure and selling costs and inventory purchases. And this is he's okay. I don't know if this is the first time his employees are seeing this, but the way he's talking about it makes it seems like this is the first time his employees are seeing this. You know what I mean? Like here.
About people. With a headcount of 100, the inventory went cross-functional, appearing on generally the largest legitimate is operations being paid on ton of development lab for the time concern because these guys, and he is manages the lab. Expect he into bit of production is production. Another department.
I'm trying to find where it was.
Jumping into flair to our are the folks that tell from the sound of the ratchet watch customer helped Americans, and then in the ultimate rate gets paid. But how are they paid? Well, while we don't always get things perfect, well above what's typical for 53,000 area at 80,000.
I'm trying to find where he addressed. Here, I can look it up on the transcript. Hold on. Oh, here.
I know that there will be many LMG team members, both current and former, watching this video, and I'm sure this talk of company compensation is going to raise some questions for some of you. But what I hope is that this degree of transparency will answer at least some of them, and if you still have concerns or you're looking for ways to improve your pay, it might be time for a conversation about either performance or a role change.
Like, that is a crazy thing to do in a public YouTube video. Am I crazy for saying that? That is something you would send out in an internal memo to your employees and not airing out publicly in a YouTube video. And then being like, hey, if you have a problem with it, maybe talk to your manager and we can talk about how your performance sucks. Honestly, I would say it would be unacceptable to do in a public or in a public forum internal to the company. Like calling it all hands staff meeting and doing this, I would say that that's inappropriate to do. Right? To be like, hey, if you have a problem with your compensation, take it up with your manager about, why you have a problem, and then we'll talk about your performance and why it's not good, or maybe a role change, right? This is something you send out in a, first of all, you just don't say that unless it's in a one-on-one meeting, right? Because what it implies is that, you're at the compensation you're at because you're not getting a raise because you're not great at your job. Right? But it's even worse. It's even, and I can accept if you do it in an all-hands staff meeting, but it's even worse. It's even worse doing it in a public YouTube video. Putting former LMG members or team members and current LMG team members in this position. This video had an ad for LTT store every minute. Yeah. Like, that's insane. That's crazy. But let's go back to this. Also, Anonymous gifted thing for the 5 gifted subs. I didn't miss it, I promise. I wanted to circle back around to it. But I wanted to finish what I was saying. Thank you for the 5 gifted subs. I appreciate it. We're only 5 away from 1,500 again. That's actually pretty close.
For entrepreneurship, that's however high you can build it. It is worth noting, by the way, though, that while entrepreneurship is a great way to elevate your earnings, I am not saying anything about what it'll do to the quality of your life or your peace of mind. There are pros and cons to every path, and over a decade of being self-employed, I've learned that there is nothing wrong with choosing employment either. Whatever path our team members choose, we want to be part of their road to success though, and we're putting that desire into action. Recently, we've taken steps to relax our policies around content creation side hustles, even in competitive verticals. And
like, first of all, why is he saying this like it's a good thing? The fact that you had that policy in the first place is bad, Linus. They had a non-compete. It's not even a non-compete. This is worse than a non-compete. Non-compete usually generally means you can't go and work at a different competitive company, right? But this was saying you can't even do a personal project. You can't even do personal projects. You can't have a YouTube channel. You can't have a personal YouTube channel working at LMG. And he's saying that as a positive force by being like, guys, we're relaxing this policy. Gusta Mantis, thank you for the 5 gifts. Much appreciated. They all left knowing they can make more money on their own. Yeah. And that's what they did. That's literally pulling the ladder up 100%. Because he didn't want his employees using the Linus Tech Tips name to become YouTubers and to actually make something of themselves. He wanted them to stay beholden to him and what his company wanted. Entrepreneurship for me and not for thee. Yeah.
our policies around content creation side hustles, even in competitive verticals, and we've even taken the unprecedented step of directly sponsoring former team members who we feel are doing great work and who have strong brand synergy. I am so proud to be a part of the teams that work here, but I don't know. Recently, I've begun to think that maybe my greatest legacy could end up being the incredible pipeline that we've built for developing talent.
It is kind of funny because one of the people he's shouting out is this channel, which I think, you know, why Linus Tech fired us. I think this might be inflammatory, so maybe they're on good terms. Yeah, we were fired for Linus Tech, and it was awesome. So that would make sense. But like, Jake, you know, expressed some very clear and open concerns, which is probably why he was removed from this segment, I'm pretty sure, as he spoke about here.
Far from the only person who felt that way. After 3+ years, phones I really couldn't afford, with the hope that I could again share my passion for tech with all of you. And since people are gonna ask, yeah, all of this is a big part of why I had such an emotional reaction to clips from my channel being used in the How LMG Spends Money video that LTT released recently. I'll link to it in the description if you're interested, but it basically details the average comp across the entire team, talks about how they spend the revenue the company generates, shares some insight into Linus and Yvonne's take home as the sole shareholders of the company, and included a short segment at the end talking about past staff members' new ventures, and also included some footage of current staff members too. At the time, seeing myself and some of my friends talked about in a section about how proud they were of ex-LMGers, right after what felt like Linus justifying the issues so many of them and myself had been raising for years with, "'cause capitalism?" It just felt kind of backhanded, and it did make me really upset. Add in that people were misinterpreting it, and the fact that no one asked me for permission to use the clips, or if I even wanted to be included in the first place, or even linking to the channel or anyone else's channels until I brought it up. It just... Maybe that's not how it was intended, and I'm sorry if it wasn't. But when you're directly on the other side of something like this, it's real stuff. This affects your life and your friends who have already been through so much already. So, yeah. I got emotional. I'm still emotional. And I'm not going to apologize for that. What I will apologize for is that I didn't need to bring all of you into it. In retrospect, none of it makes any sense without context anyways, and more importantly, it's just not your business. You guys saw it as a nice gesture, but to me, it hurt. And ultimately, that's my problem. So for that, I am sorry. That's not what you're here for, and I should have taken a moment to pause and let myself breathe before acting emotionally, because honestly, it's time to move on. I should have made this video a long time ago so that this hasn't been looming over my head, and for a while there I thought I'd be able to move on without it, but clearly that's not the case. Despite all of that, I hope that they're able to fill the shoes I left empty in a way that makes sense for them, and I look forward to hopefully seeing some content about my babies. Wannick 4, the Mother Vault? I honestly don't even remember if it's Wannick 4. I think that's right. And look, at some point, maybe I'll collaborate with LTT again. It's not like we don't share common interests or potentially have ways to help each other, and I'm grateful for everything they did for me, and I'm hopeful for the future for everyone.
I will say, Linus is vindictive enough where this video will turn him off for that completely. Genuinely.
But now that I've got this off my chest, I am closing this LMG chapter of my life and turning the page back to what's coming next. Because in retrospect, leaving was the best decision I have ever made. I now get to work on whatever interests me most, still work with some of the friends I made along the way, and you'll probably see some more collabs there, and I get to share it with all of you. I am incredibly fortunate to be able to do so, and it's because all of you, and of course, because of my time at LMG. So thank you. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I don't know what else I can do to show my appreciation other than to continue to try to make really good content. So if you're looking to support this new adventure, I appreciate you. Get subscribed and maybe check out my Patreon, which I'll have linked down in the description, where you can watch the ad-free version of these videos for a small fee. Also down there will be links to my social media page, Alex and Andy's channel, the car channel, and some of the companies who have helped support and sponsor the channel so far. Seriously, huge shout out to Boot.dev, CodeRabbit, Ugreen, GLINet, and Comply, just to name a few.
I got his little his thing off. But that's the Linus situation. Also, the CEO of Milk the Year for the Prime as well. But yeah, I said every few years something like this is gonna happen, and it's swept under the rug. They came and recommended it, and I said Rajan to cover it. Yeah, it's just a perfect example of just like why unions are important. Is this a surprise from anybody? Linus is raking in millions of dollars, and he's willing to let an employee who's been with him for 10 years leave the company then to increase his revenue just a little bit. And this isn't even a unique thing to Linus, bro. I've seen it happen in my own life, right? People who are so committed to like the numbers on the balance sheet that they lose the human aspect when they hold that position, that top dog position, when they hold the CEO position. And they just can't see it. They literally cannot see it from the other side. Right? That position makes it so that it's impossible for them to see it from the other side. That's why having a union is so important. And this was in Reddit drama only last month. Luke cannot see past his own ego. Why? There's more Gamer Nexus stuff? New year, new drama erupts in r/Linus Tech Tips as Linus is given mod permission and threatens to ban people live on the WAN show for making bad faith dumb opinions. Okay. And this is not the first time r/Linus Tech Tips will feature on this sub. In fact, this would be my sixth post about this subreddit here. For effects of this post, previous ones are not necessary, but I'll leave some links if you want to read them. Jeez Louise. Context: Linus Tech Tips is our unofficial subreddit, meaning the people not affiliated with Linus run the subreddit that post things associated with Linus Sebastian and his company, and YouTube channels Linus Media Group and Linus Tech Tips. Some days ago, one of the WAN shows, a live podcast where Linus and Luke, too many L names, discussed over various topics in tech space, Linus accidentally reveals an email where the name of his son, which had been kept a secret, and using a stage name when it appears in Linus's videos, was revealed. Some users in the r// Linus Tech Tips sub were posting about it, and they were deleted pretty quickly. Linus was concerned about. And while they were deleted pretty quickly, Linus was concerned about it. On December 22nd, the LMG team requested the subreddit moderators that Linus should be given mod permission to take down posts, mainly for dealing with the doxing concerns regarding Linus's family and LMG employees. Yesterday, a topic came up on the WAN show, and Linus had the following exchange with Luke.
Cool. So yeah, the goal is not to, be mean or anything like that. But I'm also not going to claim that if I see someone who's a complete bad faith dum-dum, that they will continue to have posting privileges. So make of that what you will. So for instance, there's a thread about the new TrueSpec cables, and these are going to be the new monster cable, and they're going to have absurd pricing, and you can just, I don't know, post on other subreddits, I guess, because you don't actually have evidence for the claim that you're making.
Come on, bro. Come on, broski. Come on. Over a cable? Ah, he's such a baby.
On other subreddits, I guess, because you don't actually have evidence for the claim that you're making. So,
I think if the community counters that person significantly enough, it might even be good to leave it up.
Why?
So that people can see that an argument for that was made and immediately discounted. But I mean, that's
Linus
all your...
but then I can't use my cool mod powers to take down opinions I disagree with.
call.
Yeah. All right. Duly noted.
It's just an idea. I think there will be cases where
yes,
that
I remember the hard art clip. I'm not gonna watch it right now because this is more of a serious Linus is not great conversation, but maybe afterwards.
Makes sense, and there will be plenty of cases where that does not make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Buddy here, who says, I've always wanted to buy expensive, overpriced USB cables, but didn't feel like going to Best Buy. I think they can just take a vacation, though. Like, do they? Why?
Like,
why
he's
do
a
they need to be here?
multi-millionaire crashing out over Reddit comments. Reddit comments. Saying that his cables were bad. You make a product, people are critiquing the product, and he's like, yeah, minus 22 votes, and he's still like, no, I want to kick him out of here because he's being mean to me. He's such a baby.
I mean, the hate watchers need somewhere to post, but they could post somewhere else.
There are other places.
There are other places where people can post.
Come on, dog. Come on, dog. Come on. That exchange was not well received by the subreddit. Here are some threads about it. Also, some notes made by subreddit moderators. Pinned mod, just for transparency, on behalf of the mod team, we received a request from LMG to add Linus as a mod in December 22nd, 2025. This was done under the understanding this will only be used to remove context posted about an immediate threat to himself or his team, i.e. doxing, in cases where we were unable to get to it first. Permissions were kept as light as possible, and moderation will be routinely audited, as it is currently, to ensure that this is adhered to. This subreddit will continue to be a community-led and remain unofficial in that regard. So will Linus' privileges be revoked based on his statements? Whether this was a misunderstanding or subterfuge is irrelevant because he clearly has other ideas at this point. Waiting for communication from them, I advocated for revoking, but we decided to wait. There's no immediate threat or anything, and the account didn't even do what Linus thinks it did. Things it can't ban people. Seems like you were lied to. Based on his statements here, his mod privileges should be revoked for lying to the existing mods about their intent for getting mod status. Or there was some miscommunication, misunderstanding. I get that it's not as exciting though, and it's much more fun to be mad about dumb shit. It doesn't actually matter. The mod team, I would most likely not have accepted this if it's original intent, so revoking it should be the only course from now on. Linus clearly sees the sub as LTT property. Quoted, or just making sure they're on the same page. Quoted, good lord, some of you are thirsty for hot takes and drama. I got like L decision by Elness. LOL. This is a very power tripping Reddit move. Vote system is there for a reason. You don't need to ban people just because you don't like what they say. I mean, true. And this is just a back and forth. Linus appears on a comment thread and doubles down in questionable fashion into the screenshot because the first comment was removed. LOL dangerous. At risk of whataboutism. Jeez the freaking wheeze. A manifesto, bro. US abducted as leader of a sovereign nation today, and some tech YouTuber having mob privileges and a fan subreddit is dangerous. Reddit is hilarious sometimes. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, bro. The issue with the cables is not that it's negative, it's clearly unfounded in bad faith. Oh my god. It doesn't matter, Linus. It doesn't matter. It's free speech. People can lie about your cables and say it's dumb. Especially if there's no rule in the subreddit against lying about Linus Tech products. At least he's against them kidnapping Maduro, to be honest. That's a low bar to clear, honestly. Most of the world is against the US. He's like, unless you're like Tom McDonald, as a Canadian that's pro Donald Trump. Our prime minister was in favor. Is that the statement was complaining about the price, but at this point it's so important. No one outside of LMG has ever seen the LTT cable, and we have not published the price. Okay, he was lying. Who cares? Who cares? You are a multi-millionaire worried about a Reddit comment that got minus 22 votes. What are we talking about? Oh my goodness. This isn't even the biggest deal in the world. I think that the Gamer Nexus stuff is just worse.